Right now, beneath one of America's most visited national parks, the ground is rising. Not slowly, not imperceptibly. At a rate that has forced United States Geological Survey scientists to abandon their baseline models and start over. Instruments drilled into Wyoming bedrock are registering deformation numbers that do not match any pattern in the modern record. The magma is moving, the pressure is building, and the clock that has been running for 640,000 years may finally be approaching zero. Most people think of Yellowstone as a park, geysers and bison, and postcard sunsets over steaming thermal pools. What they do not think about is what is generating all of that steam. Directly beneath the surface of Yellowstone National Park sits one of the most destructive geological structures on the planet, a supervolcano. The caldera alone stretches 34 miles wide and 45 miles long, a scar so enormous from the last eruption that you cannot see its edges standing inside it. You are already inside it. Below that caldera, a magma chamber containing an estimated 300 cubic miles of partially molten rock pushes upward with pressure that has nowhere to go. To understand the scale of what that means, consider this. The 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens released enough energy to level an area the size of a major city. The last full Yellowstone eruption was 1,000 times more powerful. Not 10 times. Not 100 times. 1,000. The ground at Yellowstone does not stay still. It never has. But what scientists are measuring right now is different. And it has the monitoring community running calculations they hoped they would never need to run. Ground uplift at the northern rim of the caldera has accelerated to 2.8 inches per year. That number does not sound alarming until you compare it to the long-term average, which sits at less than 1 inch per year across most of the caldera's recorded history. Global Positioning System sensors anchored into the rock at monitoring stations throughout the park are transmitting data in real time to the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory. What those sensors are detecting is a dome. It is a slow, steady, upward bulge spreading outward from the magma chamber below. Scientists call the process inflation. The earth above the magma pocket is literally being pushed upward as pressure builds beneath it. The Norris Geyser Basin, historically one of the most thermally active areas in the park, has recorded vertical ground movement of more than 3 feet over the last 2 decades. 3 feet of solid earth pushed skyward by a system building pressure underground. And the rate is not slowing, it is accelerating. The ground is not just rising, it is shaking. Yellowstone sits inside one of the most seismically active regions in the continental United States, and the earthquake swarms recorded beneath the park in recent years have shattered historical frequency records in ways that seismologists are only beginning to fully process. In a single year, monitoring networks have captured more than 3,000 individual seismic events beneath Yellowstone's surface. Most measure below magnitude 2. You would never feel them standing above. But the instruments feel everything. And what the instruments are detecting is not random geological noise. The epicenters of these micro-tremors are clustering, concentrating along pathways that map almost perfectly onto the boundaries of the magma chamber below. Researchers studying pre-eruption seismic sequences at volcanoes like Pinatubo in the Philippines and El Hierro in the Canary Islands have documented identical clustering patterns in the weeks and months before those volcanoes erupted. The clustering is the signal. It marks the movement of pressurized fluid, finding pathways through fractured rock. At Yellowstone, those pathways lead directly into the most dangerous geological structure in North America. Scientists will not say eruption is imminent. What they will say is that this pattern demands continuous, intensive monitoring. And they are monitoring. Around the clock. Every single day. Beneath the surface, there is a third system accelerating alongside the magma pressure and the earthquake swarms, the hydrothermal system. Yellowstone sits atop one of the largest and most complex networks of superheated water on Earth. More than 10,000 thermal features dot the park's surface. Geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and fumaroles, all of them venting heat and pressure generated by the magma below. But in recent years, something has changed in the behavior of that system. New thermal vents have cracked open in areas of the park that showed zero hydrothermal activity as recently as 5 years ago. Patches of forest floor are dying along new fault lines as superheated gases rise through the soil and cook root systems from below. Dead trees stripped of bark, standing white against green hillsides, mark the expanding footprint of thermal ground in sections of the park visitors were walking through just a decade ago. The Yellowstone River, in stretches running through the most geologically active corridors, runs visibly warmer than temperature baselines established in the 1990s. The hydrothermal system is not separate from the volcanic threat. It is connected directly to the magma chamber. When the chamber pressurizes, the hydrothermal system responds first. What scientists are watching expand across Yellowstone's surface right now is the volcanic system communicating upward through every channel it has available. If Yellowstone erupts at full capacity, the event would not be a disaster. It would be a transformation of the North American continent. Within the first 72 hours, a column of ash and gas would punch into the stratosphere, reaching heights of 30 miles. The ash cloud would spread across the continental United States within days. States as far east as New York would record measurable ashfall. Agricultural regions across the Midwest, the bread belt that feeds the entire country, would be buried under a layer of volcanic ash thick enough to collapse structures and render soil sterile for years. 87 million people live within the immediate impact radius. Pyroclastic flows of superheated gas and rock, moving at 400 miles per hour, would reach that zone within minutes of a major eruption. There would be no evacuation for those closest. There would be no warning that arrives fast enough. Beyond the immediate destruction, the global consequences would compound over years. Sulfur dioxide ejected into the stratosphere would form an aerosol layer reflecting sunlight away from the Earth's surface. Global average temperatures would drop by 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Crop failures would spread across 6 continents. The last time a supervolcano erupted at this scale, it nearly ended the human species entirely. Mount Toba in Indonesia erupted 74,000 years ago. Genetic evidence suggests the global human population collapsed to fewer than 10,000 individuals in the years that followed. Here is the part that nobody in a position of authority wants to say directly. The United States has no evacuation infrastructure capable of moving the populations living inside Yellowstone's impact zone in any time frame that matters. The interstate highway network surrounding Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho was not designed for a simultaneous mass exodus of millions of people. Federal emergency food reserves, currently maintained to sustain the population through short-term disasters measured in days and weeks, would be exhausted within months of an agricultural collapse caused by sustained ashfall. The early warning systems monitoring Yellowstone are sophisticated. They are the best in the world. But the monitoring system and the emergency response system are not the same thing. Detecting an eruption sequence and successfully relocating tens of millions of people are two entirely separate problems. America has solved the first. it has not come close to solving the second. FEMA's national planning scenarios include a supervolcanic eruption. On the list of catastrophic events the agency is theoretically prepared to address. Volcanologists who have reviewed those plans describe the gap between theoretical preparation and operational reality as staggering. The monitoring network will see it coming. The question that emergency planners cannot answer honestly is what exactly anyone is supposed to do with that warning once it arrives. The ground beneath Yellowstone is still rising. The earthquake swarms are still clustering. New thermal vents are still opening in ground that was cold and stable when most Americans alive today were born. 640,000 years of pressure have been building beneath a geological structure that releases that pressure the only way geology knows how. Violently, completely, without negotiation. Scientists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory are watching the instruments right now. They will tell you the probability of a full caldera eruption in any given year is low, statistically small, a fraction of a percent. What they will not tell you is that low probability and impossible probability are not the same thing, and that every measurement coming out of that park in recent months has moved in the same direction, upward. The geyser still fires on schedule. The tourists still photograph the bison. The park still opens every morning, as if the ground beneath it is the same ground it has always been. But the instruments know differently, and the instruments do not lie. Somewhere beneath that postcard surface, in heat and pressure and silence so deep it predates human civilization, the clock that started 640,000 years ago is still running. And nobody can tell you when it stops.